All right, this is Gene Palubicki with Perdition Temple and Malefic Throne, and I'm back at you with the Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and you're listening to the Tampa Morgue, Season 3, Episode 119. And as always, from his studio deep in the bowels of Tampa Bay, Florida, Mr. Ed Webb. What's up, Webb?
Ho, 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 Mr. Anderson. What the fuck is up?
Yeah, man, it's almost that time. 2 more episodes until the year ends. Fucking 2026 on the way. Getting ready for the holidays, I guess, basically, as I was telling you before we signed on, kind of. I've been running around like crazy, man. My kids have all the Christmas things going on at school. So between that and running to malls and all that parental misery that we're all faced with at this time of year. Everything else is good, man. How's everything in the Webb household?
Yeah, welcome to parenthood, dude. Been there,
Yeah.
done that, got the fucking t-shirt. Yeah, it's been a great week,
And
as
Ed
you know.
always says that to me too. Whenever I tell Ed what I'm my weekly things right now with my children, he's like, "Thank God I'm done with that."
Yeah, man. I mean, I not thank God I'm done with it, but I just the memories, I remember all of it, you know. I had 3, so I had to deal with all kinds of shit, you know, different ages too. You know, like yours are real close. Mine were further apart. So it was like, you know, plus I dealt with the sports and all the stuff and 2 different kids and 2 different sports, you know, and it was, yeah, it was fun back then.
Yeah,
But
and it's getting
now
a little more fun now. My kids are 4 and 6, and actually my kids, as we speak, are with their mother watching The Birds, which, I mean, you kinda forget that movie's a little more than you expect, like, you kinda I don't know, as you get older and you get desensitized, you forget The Birds, but, for them, that's like a pretty freaky movie, man, but they love it.
sure. I mean, after watching Terrifier, I think The Birds is like jovial. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's like, yeah.
they're not at that stage yet.
No, 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 no. I'm saying for us, like after
Yeah.
watching Terrifier and you will go watch The Birds, you're like, this sucks.
Yeah, it's another Terrifier
Still a
on the
good
way
movie
too,
though.
man. Should be,
Yep.
I'm starting to see the ads for it now, part 4. Anybody who listens to our show regularly knows that we had David Howard Thornton, AKA Art the Clown on, probably, God, was it like 2 years ago?
Yep. Yep. Early days.
Time is just fucking flying, man,
Yep.
you know? And we opened up the show tonight with Perdition Temple, Kingdoms of the Bloodstained from the Malign Apotheosis record that came out on November 28th on Hell's Headbangers, and Gene from the band will be joining us here in about 25 minutes. Anybody who listens to our show knows that Gene was on episode 50. So, we usually do a deep dive into the history of the musician. Well, we did that with Gene already. So if you want to hear that, that is episode 50. It's almost like 3 hours, I believe. But we go through Gene's whole history, everything from AngelCorpse to Impiety to Perdition Temple, just everything. So, but Gene will be joining us in about 25 minutes. Next week, we have Death Chain out of Finland on the show. Week after that, we have Atax and Scum from the band Pest, the German black metal band. I believe it's their first audio interview ever. Last week, we had Kev Desecrator, the drummer of Destroyer 666, Venification, Sepulcher, Profanation, and Voketh. He was on the show. That was his first audio interview ever. The week before that, we had Tony Thomas from Witch Vomit and Torture Rack. W. Horror Preacher from Finland from Vomit Angel the week before that. And then Chris Volcano, who was also his first audio interview ever. Chris from Abominator, Cemetery Urn, Denouncement Pyre, and X Destroyer 666. Great episode. Been getting a lot of killer feedback on that. So we're, again, new episode, episode 119 tonight. But Ed, so what's been going on with you, man? Anything new before we get rolling on tonight's show?
Yeah, aside from being broken again, yeah, no, nothing new.
Yeah, Ed is falling apart on us, man. Ed was finally over this, which I know, I remember when we were doing shows and Ed was fucking suffering and, finally got over this. And then again, you had to go see the old doctor today.
Yeah, today, because, over the weekend, um, I had, uh, I got a I met up with Lee, did some stuff. The next, I woke up kind of congested, so I took some Afrin because usually it opens me right up. But then I woke up and, I use a CPAP. My mask was all full of blood. I didn't know what the fuck it was, so I cleaned it and sat here and my nose was bleeding, and then it stopped, and I went back to bed and same thing, and it didn't stop after that. And then my wife sent me to the clinic, and they fucking made it worse. So then they sent me to the ER, and I sent you the picture of what they did to me. They fucking butchered me.
Oh, you look like
Uh,
you had the shit beat out of you in that picture.
Dude, they put this thing called a rhino rocket, which is basically like a balloon in your face, and they blow it up, and it's supposed to stop the bleeding. Yeah, well, after a hip surgery and the nasal polyp surgery, those failed even remotely pain-wise compared to what that bitch did to me at the fucking hospital. Um, and then, of course, the nurse was a douchebag, and then their spiel was, "Well, we don't really do this that much," and that just pissed me off after they fucking did it. I'm like, they should have sent me somewhere else, but they want that revenue. So, of course, why not? Why would they do that? So, yeah, it was a painful, I think I lasted 29 hours. you're supposed to keep it in at least 24 hours, I think, 24 to 72. I couldn't go a fucking second longer. You know, my poor daughter, boy, she thought I was going to die. It was brutal, man. My head, I thought I was going to have a stroke. Like the pain was so, you see the picture. I mean, my right eye is completely red and I couldn't stop tearing. Dude, it was brutal. So we went back to another hospital and the guy was like, yeah, when he took it out, he was like, dude, that thing was way too big for your nose. That was the wrong one. And again, fucked me up. But I got the news today that my polyps are back and I'm probably going to have another fucking surgery. So, you know, it is what it is. You know, I kind of had that feeling it was going to happen, but, you know, I can only do what I can do.
Yeah, you gotta worry about the health, man. You got a lot of stuff coming up this year, obviously with Monstrosity and the new record and the touring and stuff like that. Where are you guys jamming at now when you guys are jamming Monstrosity? You mentioned Lee
Lee,
earlier that you were getting together with him.
yeah,
Where's
yeah.
the
Well,
spot you
Lee's
guys
house.
jamming?
Lee's house. We jam it.
Oh, okay.
He's in his garage. He's had that house since I was in Diabolic, 97, 98. So he's been in the house for forever, almost 30 years.
Crazy, crazy, man. Yeah, well, we're looking forward to, you know, hopefully soon talking about the new Monstrosity, which everybody, you listen to the show, we'll keep you updated on that. So let's also mention, we mentioned it last week, so let's mention it here for a couple minutes. You know, anybody who doesn't know, and obviously if you live in the Tampa scene, because it was a band that was around in that scene for many years. I know even pre-Ed playing with me in our bands, we've done shows with Contorted and stuff, and, Contorted is made up, obviously, of Pete from Nasty Savage, Jim from Nasty Savage, and, of course, Ed, So, Ed, what can you tell us, man? What is the latest update, and what do you guys have planned?
Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, they posted a picture. It was actually, don't forget Carlos. That's
And
the guitar
Carlos
player
from,
From
Massacre,
Massacre.
yes.
Um, they posted a picture of them three jamming, and I saw it. We talked about it, and I liked the picture because I was like, oh, they're going to get it back together. I had talked to Pete. We played San Antonio with Nasty Savage, and we took a picture. And some people got this weird, ooh, because Dave Orman, who's also a Nasty Savage, was actually in the last version of Contorted I did. We never did anything with him because he was kind of virtually new, but he was the last guitar player I was jamming with them. So people thought maybe that was going to do something. But I always told Pete, if you did it, you want to do it, hit me up, let me know. I would be down only because uh, I wrote some of that, a lot of that stuff. We all did. It was like our baby. So what I think I was talking to you one day, and your wife called, and we hung up, and like 10 minutes later, Pete hit me up saying, hey, you know, we want to see if you want to do this, and I was like, fuck, all right, let's do it. So we jammed, and it was killer. Um, I couldn't believe how much shit I remembered coming back. And what's crazy is I'm actually playing the bass. Who would have thought, huh? That,
I know, right? You
the
play
guy who
bass?
doesn't know how to play bass is playing bass. So, but yeah, it was great. Playing old songs, playing with those guys, because it had been, I left in somewhere between 2007, 2008. I can't give you the DTR was, I believe, started early 2008, so it would have to be in that area because I went from Contorted to forming Destined to Ruin. Um, so 17 years. It's a long fucking time, man. The time
Yeah.
flies. You don't realize, you know, how how much time goes. But yeah, it was good, and we're just putting some shit together. A bunch of people are trying to offer shows and stuff, and I told them just slow down. Let's
You
let's
guys
get
think
a.
you guys are gonna record?
I don't know that. I'm not sure of. They already have a record that they did. They never released, so I don't know what the scoop is. We're just taking it day by day. We're supposed to jam tomorrow, so we'll see. But it went great. I wish I could have went last week, but on my way there was when I went to the clinic for my nosebleed, and
Bleeding out.
every fucking thing fell apart from there, dude. My life went downhill for 3 fucking days. So, but it was
Yeah,
enjoyable because I hadn't touched my bass like that. I think the last time I really played was when we did the show. And, I pick it up every now and then, but being able to play it like for real at a loud volume, playing songs that I was part of, it's cool. It's awesome. So we'll see.
yeah, man. If you guys, obviously once we or once you find out more, or there's some kind of, if there's recordings, of course, we'll keep everybody updated here on the morgue. So yeah, it's good to hear, man. I'm glad you guys are back together. Again, Contorted. If you're from the Tampa Bay area, you pretty much know. So good to see you guys back. And Ed, we did get an email, a letter,
All
so to
right.
say, because these days, again, there's no more snail mail. Especially if you're sending it to me over in Lithuania, you got
It's
way too
fucking
many
6 years
stamps.
before you get it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, an email. I figure it's just not too much. I'll read it right now, man, and then we'll do what we usually do on the show. But okay, here I'm going to pull this up. This is from Byron from Long Island.
Oof.
Hi, Tony and Ed, weekly listener to the Morgue. I wanted to say thanks for the effort you guys put into the show. The Morgue has been a great outlet to add bands to my collection that I have not checked out. I have to say, you turned me on to Aberration, Aberration from Norway, a great band, and Blood Serpent out of Vietnam. Great bands. I am also someone who is 100% in agreement that physical product is law. What is each of your preferred formats? Also, what is your favorite release of 2025? Ed, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go ahead and go first.
Yeah, my answer is going to be pretty simple. And Ed knows I am a vinyl guy, which my wife probably wants to kill me for. But there is a whole room full of records here. To me, it's I grew up on it. I love the artwork. I'm gonna just the things you always hear why people love vinyl. Uh, I still it is my preferred. I mean, even when CDs came out, I have to admit, man, I was not a big CD fan. But of course, like everybody else, you adapt, and I had them. But I'm definitely a vinyl guy. And for new records, man, doing this show has definitely like I've been how do you put it? I'm definitely more in touch with the new releases and stuff, and actually one of them that I have to say, man, was a band we had on here on episode 112, Necromaniac, Psyomancy, Malediction, and Rites Abominable. They came out on Invictus Productions in 2025. Great record. We also had, again, Sadistic Fornicator and The One on here on episode 112. So to me, that is my pick. There's been some killer releases. You mentioned Aberration, man. I'm still listening to that record from last year. It's a great record. But yeah, for me, it's vinyl, man. And Ed, what about you? I know you've kind of gotten out of the vinyl phase.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't own a record player. So the one I had took a shit and I just never bought another one, man. And I do have vinyl. I know I sound like a dick because I'm the guy who's not really buying a lot of physical media,
It's
but
expensive as shit now, man, to get
it's not
vinyl
even
too.
it's not even so much the price. It's the fact that I'm not home a lot, or when I'm in the gym, I don't have a I don't have a record player out there to play my shit.
That'd
So
be interesting if you did.
it kind of probably would, but unfortunately, it just isn't the case. And I just would rather I stream my stuff only because I'm listening to it in the car, or I'm driving around, or I'm in the gym, or I'm working out, or doing my cold plunge stuff, and I just would rather listen to it like that. That's how I do it. As you know, I have a shit ton of CDs, old original print stuff that if somebody wants to buy it, send me money. You can have it because it sits there, and I would rather a collector or somebody like I'm talking original 80s and 90s stuff from Aces Records that I bought. The original releases, not re-releases, not new covers. I mean, that's the key. Is a lot of shit me and you have is original OOP, original print
Yeah, I have
stuff.
records, man, that are worth ridiculous prices
Yeah.
now, and I mean, for me, I bought them when they came out. I never thought about that. It was just, "Hey, let's
Yeah,
pick this up."
no. We were buying stuff only because it was what we were listening to, and we were playing it. Like, I never thought of it as 30 years from now, I'm going to sell this shit for top dollar. That's not even, but so yeah, for me, streaming, as far as the record of the year, I just can't pinpoint one. There's a lot of stuff
hard,
that I've
right?
listened
Yeah,
to
it's
that
definitely...
there's a lot of stuff that I've listened to that I really dig. And honestly, the sad part is I find myself going back and listening to older shit just because unless it's a band I'm really into, a lot of the new stuff just isn't like it doesn't have the same appeal as old school stuff. I just, I'd rather go back and listen to some older stuff. It's just unfortunately the way I mean, I listen to everybody that comes on the show, I listen to. Like I could say a record that I've listened to several times now that I was very surprised how good it was the new Coroner. They haven't put out a record in I don't know how many years, and they put out the new Coroner record, and I listened to it a bunch of times. It was like, fuck yeah, because Royce was one of those guys that when I watched him play bass and sing, I was like, how do you do that? And then meeting him on the boat and hanging out with Coroner the whole 5 days, seeing how cool they were really changed my perspective of like bands. You know what I mean? Like you always thought people were unapproachable or you know what I mean? And to find out that a lot of times it's not the case. Now, Kronos from Venom, good luck. Good luck with that guy. But, like a lot of these other dudes, when we were on the boat, as you were there, we were sitting right next to Mark from Death Angel as he was trying to back hit on that chick.
Yeah,
So,
I remember that.
I mean, watching Bill Steer and Jeff Walker come up and hang with me and Terry Butler. I mean, that was like Dino screaming at me from across the fucking Dino, from Fear Factory. Remember we were walking, he's like, Massacre, screaming at us. I mean, it's just, you don't realize how cool it is until it happens, And so, yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably say the one I've listened to the most so far this year is probably the Coroner because it's just really good. It's really good. I was surprised. They're still crushing at almost 60 years old. It's amazing.
I mean, that's, and for me, like the Necromaniac is a great record, and it's it's got his own vibe to it. So, definitely appreciate that. And Byron, thank you for emailing us. We always appreciate that. We'll try to read them on the show. And Ed, so I say, what do you think? Let's well, also everybody, we do have I got an email this week. We're gonna play at the end of the show. Comedian Ed will come back at the end for a little bit. A band called Mørkø out of Finland. It's a black doom metal band, and we're going to be playing something very raw at the end. It was a 96 unreleased rehearsal demo that was sent to me. It's only one track, but we'll play that towards the end of the show tonight. I don't know if I'm not going to say who sent it to me because I don't know if they want me to say it yet, but it's a band that we're trying to get on here. It's not Mørkø, but it's someone that actually sent me the track, but we'll play that towards the end of the show tonight. And what we're going to do now is we're going to play some AngelCorpse-Christhammer off the Exterminate record that came out on Osmos Productions, February 25th, 1998. That's what Pete, obviously vocals and bass, Bill Taylor on guitar, Gene on guitar, and then John Longstrength, who you toured with, 2 years ago, but on drums. Yeah. Again, art by Joe Patango, who, obviously Supreme Evil from Diabolic days for you. Yep. Also did other Diabolic stuff too, like Subterranean Magnitude and Vengeance Ascending and the Exorcisms record. But we're going to play some AngelCorpse now, and then we're going to do the releases, the Death Metal Dave Tampa Bay Museum promo, which me and Ed will be at in February, it's very close. It's coming up real soon because I'll be in Florida for that in Tampa. I haven't been back to Tampa since November. So we're going to play some AngelCorpse now, and then we'll do the rest, the shows, which I don't think we have many shows at all tonight. I know I actually don't have any shows tonight. It's kind of like that time of year where there's not totally a lot of shit going on, and we'll do that releases and musicians who passed away, and then we'll get to Gene from Perdition Temple, Malefic Throne, and we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this.
Mysterious and new, I am what it may have put out eternity. Buried around the grave, the simply What's up, Tampa Morgue listeners? This is Death Metal Dave from the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. And I'd like to ask you to join us on February the 7th at Magnanimous Brewery, Seminole Heights, where we're going to have a killer display of Florida metal history. Backdrops, guitars, drums, clothing, you name it, we're going to have it. And it's pretty freaking cool, man. Come out and support the metal and drink our Tampa Bay Museum of Metal beer. And always listen to Tampa Morgue with Tony and Ed. It's just Death Metal Dave. In your face.
And that was the one and only Dave Allison, a.k.a. Death Metal Dave from the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. And as we've been telling you for the last few months, for more information, visit www.tampabaymuseumofmetal.com. There you will find all the Tampa Bay and Florida metal history that dates back to 1982 and takes you to the current day. Before that, we played some AngelCorpse. We played Christ Hammer. We'll be joined by Gene from AngelCorpse, Perdition Temple, Malefic Throne, Hexorcist, here in about 10 minutes. But if you are new to the Tampa Morgue, we appreciate you checking out the show. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. There is a shitload of interviews for you to check out. This is episode 119 tonight. So there's 118 past episodes. If you want to contact us, email us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com. For most updated information, visit the Instagram page. That is where you'll find out future guests, past episodes, just a whole bunch of info. That's pretty much our most accurate, up-to-date place, social media-wise. If you do want to hear the past episodes, you'll find interviews with guys like Chris Volcano from Abominator, X-Destroyer 666, Cemetery Urn, Denouncement Pyre, Pat from Hellwitch, Bobby G from Overkill and Satan's Taint, Ritual Butcher of Finland's Arc Goat. We had Vincent Crowley on the show a couple weeks ago, actually, I believe it was. Second appearance. He was on episode 6 and episode 108. Lord Aramon from Dark Funeral, Blaine Cook from The Accused AD and The Farts, Dave Austin from Nasty Savage, John Gallagher of Raven, Paul Speckman of Master, Deathstrike, Abomination, and Cadaveric Poison. We had Sergeant Salston on from Deathhammer, the guys from Necromaniac. That was episode 112. Great band. Definitely recommend checking them out if you have not yet. Anti, a.k.a. Necroterror from Cadaveric Incubator, Ex-Slugother. He's also in Satanic War Master. We had Nasty Ronnie on from Nasty Savage for about 4 hours. Again, shitloads of Tampa Bay information on that, Tampa Bay history. If you're into the Tampa Bay history, definitely recommend checking out that episode. Chris Reifert from Autopsy, Eat My Fuck, Abscess, and Violation Wound. Yano from Anal Vomit. Columbia's Witch Trap. We had Udo from Accept on the show. Snowy Shaw from King Diamond and Merciful Fate. Mangus from Aberration and Mayans Hill. King Fally from Deceased on October 31. Another long episode, about 4 hours. A great interview with the King. Jeff Manis of Venom was on for 5 hours. A deep dive into the history of Venom. Like I said, if you're a Venom fan, it's a must listen. Tony Dolan from Venom, Venom Inc. and Atomcraft. Terry Butler from Death, 6 Feet Under, Obituary, Massacre, Inhuman Condition, Denial Fiend. He was on the show. Jim and Pat from Morbid Saint, Kyle Thomas from X-Order, Trouble and Floodgate, Dallas Toller Wade from Nile and Narcotic Wasteland. He was on the show a few times. Beelzebub from Mystic Circle, Vietnam's Blood Serpent, Jamie Bailey from Liturgy and Brodequin, Harry Quokinen from Hooded Menace, Hail Conjurer, and Horse Latitudes. We had Lee Payne on here from Clove and Hoof. Great Aussie stories on that one. Henry from God Dethroned. Glenn Destructor from Australia's Destructor. Eric from Goat Seaman out of Peru. Alessio from Violenter and Hobbs Angel of Death. Luisma from Hemorrhage and Depopulation Department. Rob from Lucifericon and Destroyer 666. I do know there's a new Lucifericon record in the works. Will come out on Invictus Productions. Maybe we'll try to get Rob back on here. Luciferian Rights out of Mexico. Phantom out of Mexico. John Walker of Cancer, he was on the show for a couple hours. Ronnie Palmer from Malevolent Creation and Blood Messiah and Perdition Temple. We had Jesse Jolly on from Malevolent Creation. Lord Sabathan from Slaughter Messiah, Enthroned in Morbid Death. John Berry from Slaughter Messiah and Ancient Rites on the show. We had Revik from Mordant Red. As you can see, there is a bunch of old episodes there for you, and they're free wherever you listen to podcasts. What we're going to do now is what we always do on the show. We're going to mention the musicians who passed away. Then we're going to do releases, we'll do shows, and then we'll get to Gene from Perdition Temple, Malefic Throne, Hexorcist, and AngelCorpse. As for the musicians who passed away, Erwin Leguizamon, a vocalist, guitarist, bassist from Paraguay. He was in the bands Diabolical, Nocturno, Wisdom, and Tantrum. And then last, Eduardo Mendez, Brazilian vocalist of the band Armageddon. Now I'm going to do the releases, and then we'll get to shows. And first I have Dead Sun, the Swedish death metal band. The name of the release is This Life is a Grave. It's coming out on Emancipation Productions out of Denmark. Dead Sun formed in 1996 and put out their first demo titled As Night Conquers Day in 1997. They also put out a demo in 1999, and this will be Dead Sun's 9th full length. They also put out an EP in 2019 and a compilation in 2019. This Life is a Grave came out on December 19th. Blood Moon, the Belgian black metal band, is putting out Vampiric War's Blood on Immortal Frost Productions out of Belgium. Blood Moon formed in 2022. Debut release was a full length titled Castle Inside the Eclipse. This will be the band's second full length and contains 8 tracks, and it came out on December 19th on Immortal Frost Productions. And next, Funeral Vomit, the Colombian death metal band, has released Upheaval of Necromancy on Extreme Music out of Spain. Funeral Vomit formed in 2020. This band's first release was a 6-track demo titled Necrophoric Infestation. In total, Funeral Vomit has released 1 demo. They put out 2 splits and EP, and this will be the band's second full length. Funeral Vomit features members past and present of Cadaveric Messiah, Butchery, Blood Communion, and Crucifixer. Upheaval of Necromancy has 8 tracks and came out on December 19th. And we're going to stay in Colombia for a moment here. The next is a Colombian black thrash metal band called Penetrator Hammer. War is from Shadows is the name of this one. It's coming out on Iron, Blood, and Death Corporation out of Mexico. Penetrator Hammer formed in 2016 and put out a demo in 2017 titled Evil Prevails. They also put out a split with Sabat out of Japan in 2019. War is from Shadows came out on December 20th and is the band's debut full length. Next, we have Black Mold, the Portuguese black metal / punk band. Antinomy is the name of this EP that they're putting out on Hell Prod Records out of Portugal. Black Mold formed in 2018, put out a 5-song demo in 2018 also. In total, they put out 2 demos, a full length titled The Inheritance of Evil in 2020. This will be the band's second EP. This will be available on December 25th on Hell Prod Productions. What do you have, Webb, for shows?
All right, man. The only thing I saw for shows was they're both at the Orpheum. It's a last-minute toy drive Christmas slammer. And unfortunately, bro,
I'm going to need you to pronounce those names, Ed, really slow for us.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, if you threw $100,000 on the table and told me I had to announce the 2 in the top and the 1 in the middle, I would be very disappointed that I wasn't getting $100,000. Because, I mean, listen, whoever makes these flyers, put the band names underneath in print, because I'm sorry, when you're a logo, and I've mentioned this before, and it's not disrespectful, but when it looks like you threw a bunch of sticks on the ground, I don't know what you want. I see Slow Rot, and I don't know if that's Beneficus. I don't know what that says. And I see Bedazzled and Cadaver. That's it. I mean, the rest of these, I don't know if that's Exatira. I mean, I'm not trying to like really shit on anybody's parade here, because I appreciate bands playing and doing this for a toy drive. But you got to tell.
Can't figure out the names.
Dude, I looked on the flyer. I looked to try to see if there was like in the post, but it's on the 21st at the Orpheum. Doors at 4, show at 5. $15 with a toy, 20 without. It looks like a bunch of maybe killer death metal bands, or, go support and bring a toy and help the kids. But I can't read your names, man. I'd love to promote you, but I have no idea who it is. And the other one is a Merry Thrash Panda Christmas. So on the 27th at the Orpheum, doors at 7, 15 in advance, 20 at the door, with special guests Gas, Ramtha, and Pariah. And that's the 2 shows. Everybody else is at home celebrating Christmas.
Whatever they celebrate.
Yeah, man. Whenever you probably getting drunk and wasted and having a good time. And I love it all. Do it. Get wasted.
Yeah, so that was an easy segment right there. So what we're going to do now, we're going to bring Gene on from Perdition Temple, Malefic Throne, Hexorcist. First, we are going to play a promo for Circle Studios, which is a place that me and Ed have been jamming at for like geez, it must be like 20 years now. So we're gonna roll that, and then we're gonna play some Malefic Throne. We're gonna play The Voice of My Ghost from the Conquering Darkness record that came out on Agonia Records out of Poland on November 28th. Yeah, both of those records, man. That Perdition Temple, the new record, came out on November 28th, and so did the Conquering Darkness record from Malefic Throne. So Gene's been busy. So we're gonna talk to him about that. And Ed, anything else before we get Gene on?
Let's get Gene
Let's
on
do
this
it.
motherfucker.
Let's do it. This is we're gonna play some Malefic Throne, The Voice of My Ghost. Then Gene from Perdition Temple, Malefic Throne will be joining us. Be back on the Tampa Morgue after this.
Hello, Tampa Bay Morgue listeners. This is Joe from Circle Rehearsal Studio, Tampa Bay's rehearsal giant with 33 years of service. We know what you need to rock. Large, clean, quiet, cool, smoke-free, isolated rooms with the best gear at a musician-friendly price of $25 an hour. Professional, courteous, easygoing environment. Recently upgraded and remodeled with top-quality gear, Marshall, Ampeg, Pearl, Tampa, JBL, Yamaha, PBB, and more. We have the experience and the gear to provide you with the best possible rehearsal experience at the best price. Just completed and soon to open Circle's demo studio for your recording needs. From laying down drum tracks to complete projects, we have you covered at a musician-friendly price. Also in the work is the Pro Rehearsal Room, specially appointed and stocked with the best gear at nicely competitive rates. Our contact number is 727-546-8930. Our address is 10841 75th Street, Seminole, Florida, 33777. We have 7 large rehearsal rooms. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.
For those
And that was Malefic Throne with the voice of my ghost from the Conquering Darkness record that came out November 28th on Agonia Records. Gene, welcome back to the Tampa Morgue, dude.
Great to be back. Thanks.
The last time we had you on was June of 2024. Perdition Temple had just played Maryland Death Fest, actually a day set. That was episode 50 you were on, man. And outside of music, dude, how are you doing otherwise? Everything's good on your end?
I'm good. I still work the jobs that I do. I'm not entirely making any kind of a living off of the music stuff. I mean, it pays when I'm out, doing the work, doing shows and such. But it's never so consistent that I could live off of it. So I mean, I actually have two jobs that I work. I usually average about 60 hours a week with the real world jobs and such. So it's all doing well. You know.
Yeah, and you can always, like I always tell everybody that comes on the show, man, you could tell us what you want. You don't have to tell us what you don't want, but you don't have to tell us where you work or anything. But what do you kind of do outside of music?
I mean, I work for a beverage company as a sales rep, and then for the other part-time job, I just do some stock work, backroom work, real vanilla stuff.
Anybody who's listening to this, we had Gene on in June of 2024. And if you go to that episode, you'll hear, I mean, everything about, we went through Gene's whole history from when he first went to Tampa in 91, from his Minnesota roots, Iron Records at Deaf Ear Records, everything AngelCorpse, Impiety. Covered all that stuff. So tonight we're going to talk to Gene about the new records he has going on because Gene's been very busy, and to some Tampa stuff too, man. So again, dude, we're glad you made time for us because I know you've been busy as shit promoting these records and stuff like that. And I know we're wrapping up 2025 right now, and of course with Perdition Temple, you've been busy. You did what, 3 dates in November in Texas?
Yeah, we did Houston, San Antonio, and what the hell was the other one? San Antonio, Houston, and shit, I can't remember. I can't remember the name of the other city that it was, but it was the three of them, and they were all really cool. It was with the bands were from Canada. There was Empty Chalice. From Texas, there was Spear Siege. Church Aside was on a few of the shows. So yeah, it was a really cool atmosphere at all three of the shows. And it was some of the first shows too, where we were playing some of the new material from the Malign Apotheosis album for Perdition Temple. So it was good to get warm our way into doing those brand new songs. First time ever playing them together.
I was going to ask you, but how is that? Do you like to go out and like perform the music a little bit live before you go in the studio with it?
No, new material only ever comes out live after we've already put them out on the albums.
I know you guys did Swarm Fest with Hellwitch and them. What that was November.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with Hell's Headbangers, they actually had the album out ahead of the release date. I mean, people were getting their pre-orders even before we did that Swarm Fest show. So people had already heard it. Plus, the 2 songs that we were playing were the 2 preview tracks. So basically, it was nothing that we were playing that nobody had ever heard before. So we like to keep it that way.
So since the last time we had you on, I believe right after that you guys Perdition Temple we're speaking about now. You guys did your first European dates with Omega Vortex.
Yeah, that was back in late October into November of last year. It was us with support with Omega Vortex. It was like several shows in Poland and a few other stops. I don't have a list of all the cities in front of me right now, but it was only about 10 shows. One of which we missed. I think we missed a Dresden, Germany show because of a flight delay. We ended up not arriving until a day later. But that aside, the 9 shows that we did play all went over really well, and we're planning to try to do something like that again this year. Who we will play with, I'm not sure, but we're working on a return trip to Europe, probably about that maybe even about the same time of year again, probably around October, likely October, yes.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, we actually had Tony Thomas on from Torture Rack and Witch Vomit, and he also announced on our show that you guys will be doing some shows with them, and Drawn and Quartered and Occult Blood, I believe it is, in March.
Yeah, March 13th and 14th. So those are the very next shows that we'll be doing is those what is it, Portland and Seattle, I believe. Yeah, yeah, those ought to be really cool.
And with your schedule, man, like you're saying, you know, you have a very busy besides the band, a lot of stuff going on, you know? For those who don't know, like you said, you got 2 jobs, you got 4 active bands, I believe it is. You got 2 records coming out in 2025. You got another one that you're pretty much gonna be putting out in 2026. And you got Ronnie, who's obviously, you know, plays with Malevolent. We had Ronnie on here, episode 88, Blood Messiah, and his other projects and stuff. So how hard is it for you to, you know, to get something set up for Perdition Temple, to, like, find the time where everybody kinda has the same availability, so to say?
Well, it's just staying on top of it with each of us. We make like a yearly calendar amongst ourselves, so that whenever any one of us has dates that one of our bands is going to do something, we just black it out for any of the other projects, so that way nobody gets tripped up. You know, sometimes there's, you know, has to be, you know, between 2 bands, if there's 2 things that aren't 100% confirmed, you know, kind of a decision has to be made of, well, which one's gonna do their thing and which one isn't, you know, but we haven't really had too much trouble with that. That is how we stay ahead of it. We just keep a calendar, you know, so that we know that if we get offers for any one of the bands, that we can refer to that and be like, okay, well, we're already set up for dates for this, so sorry, you have to be another time, you know, and we just delegate it delegate it like that between all the bands.
Well, we played with you, me and Ed, it was November, actually not this Swarm Fest, but the last Swarm Fest. Anybody who has seen Perdition Temple knows that you guys, you know, killer band, man, killer records. I mean, not a bad record in the batch so far. You've been doing this, what, it's been like 33, 34 years since the Impiety demos and stuff.
Yeah, about
Because
yeah.
that's crazy, isn't it? Do you consider yourself someone who enjoys playing live, or has it now become part of the job? Or, you know, are you more of a studio guy? And, you know, like I said, 33 years is a long time, man. Is it you still have that fire inside of you when you step on the stage?
Yeah, because the motivations that I've got for doing this stuff are the same as they always were. From when I was a young teenager, you know, I always wanted to create aggressive, you know, I mean, aggressive speed thrash metal at that time, and then as the '90s started to come around, or even the late '80s, you know, this whole more death metal type energy to the music started to become more prominent. And it was always the course that I chose. You know, none of that has changed. So even as I get older, I still try to approach it, mentally approach it in the same way that I did when I was younger. So in a way, it's like no matter how old I am, I'm still trying to approach it like I'm 15 or 16 years old. You know, so that way it never gets boring. Um, you know, and I can always try to stay on top of it. I mean, as much as I still draw influence from, you know, the earliest things that I got into, you know, the earlier albums, you know, at least for like speed and in thrash metal, you know, obvious ones like, you know, things like Hell Awaits from Slayer, Darkness Ascends from Dark Angel, Pleasure to Kill Creator, you know, all that right in the mid '80s, really hyper aggressive type thrash stuff. That's what really grabbed me. You know, so I've always been like, well, you know, I'm gonna learn this stuff. I'm gonna meet it, and then I'm gonna figure out how to beat it and do something that's gonna be, you know, more outrageous. You know, and I've kind of stuck to that type of motivation all along. You know, that no matter what I've done on any one of my own previous records, I never figured that that's some sort of peak that, "Oh, it doesn't need to get any faster or aggressive or more chaotic or anything than this," and I'm like, "No, fuck that. It's gonna be the next time around, I'm gonna just make it that much uglier, that much more aggressive, and outrageous as I possibly can." Obviously, I still learn, new things about how to weave the music together, at least in the case of Perdition Temple, both the music and the lyrics. So it's I would say that's a big part of how I'm able to keep a consistency with all of this over, creeping up on a little over 3 decades now.
And do you think, as you mentioned earlier, you work real jobs, like the band is not you don't depend on the band to pay your bills. Did you think that plays part in your passion for it still, that it's not something that you get completely fucking frustrated over because you're not making rent from it because you have that part of life covered already?
Well, there is a thing that comes from it, the fact that, that I do what I have to do to live, to pay bills, keep a roof over my head, etc. Um, and the fact that I've gotta find creative ways to be able to have enough time to do all the musical stuff, I think it adds extra sense of urgency to the music work. Because it's not like I can just sit around and pine over riffs for months on end and, have these broad conceptual ideas that I sit on for 3 or 4 years. It's like, okay, I've got a good idea. I'm going to bang the hell out of it. You know, Good idea. Let's move on. Let's get on to the next part. And that urgency without, overthinking things, lets the real original raw idea stay at the forefront, and then crafting to the best of my ability uh songs together with that push behind it, gives it that, youthful, sort of naive, desperate urgency to the music that can make it sound like it's coming from people that are a lot younger, that it might be from a band of some, early 20s, 20 somethings, instead of from people that are getting into their 50s now.
Obviously, you've been busy as shit, which we mentioned earlier. The first thing we'll talk about is the new Perdition Temple record, Malign Hypothesis, that was released November 28th, 2025. Follow up to Merciless Upheaval. And again, so with Perdition Temple, you're putting this riffs together. Then if I'm correct, you're sending them to Ronnie and kind of that's where it all begins.
Yeah. So how it works out is I'll originally come up with a song, and then I'll map out the structure of it, the arrangement, like, A, B, C, D, whatever collection of riffs and the patterns. And, I'll just have like the riff with, say, like a metronome time going with it, like just like a little bell or click track or whatever. And, but that's it. I don't give any instruction like, oh, this riff needs to have double bass or blast beats or thrash beat or, et cetera, et cetera. I just give the tempo and the riff and like, okay, these are the arrangement, put it together, and then he can, take those stems and put them to his home studio setup and then put it together. And then once he's got the model built from my parts, then he can just start working out exactly what he wants to do for the drums. And then once he's got a cut of the song, then he'll just send it to me and see what I think. And in most cases, I try not to be too critical at all, even if it's something that is completely not what I might have been thinking in my head when I came up with a riff. I I'll let it ride, and I'll let that become Ronnie's imprint on the songs, within the arrangements of the songs, that his contributions for the drums are going to be exactly what he intended, and not something that would be dictated by me, that it's like, it's gotta be this way, and everybody just needs to do this. I don't wanna do it that way. I want everybody to have their place, to be able to put their imprint independently over all the songs. And I think doing it that way has worked out really good for us, and we've pretty much done that ever since the Tempters album from back in 2015.
I know Ronnie has his own studio. When you guys do this album, it's 8 songs. First of all, how long did it take you to put the material together? And are you guys all pretty much recording in your own studios?
Yeah. Yeah, we all have our own home studio set up. So what we do is we just file share the stems to each other, and then we just cut together our parts. So, yeah, so for the material, I mean, I guess really the Merciless Upheaval album, or well, mini album, expanded mini album, was part of a wave of songs that I'd written from around the time, right around the time when the COVID lockdowns took place. So say going back to around 2020, early 2020, it all kind of started because everybody was just, stuck at home sitting on their ass. Nobody could tour. Nobody could really do much of anything for that matter for a while. So I burrowed in and just started writing material. And ultimately I ended up with what were 12 songs of material. So, knowing that we weren't going to tour or do any live shows anytime soon, I came up with the idea. Let's do a mini album. I mean, originally there was even talk after the Sacraments album that we were going to maybe do like a 7-inch, but that went away, and we were still developing material. And by that point, it's like, well, let's get something out. Let's do something instead of just nothing. Um, and just wait until the world turns on again, and then try to do some kind of tour or any kind of live show. So it's like, okay, well, let's put out a mini album. But not to be lazy, we figured it's like, all right, well, let's put out 4 of the 12 new songs that we've got. But then I was like, okay, well, I want to do some bucket list cover songs. Like something from the first Infernal Majesty album, something from the very first Pestilence album, which, those things came out in like 87 and 88, and those things had a big impact at me at the time, because those 2 albums came out, right around the time where a lot of the old guard thrash bands were starting to maybe slip a little, going into about 1988. But that first Infernal Majesty and that first Pestilence album, seemed to be trying to take the speed and thrash thing and, just made it that much darker, that much more aggressive. And that was right on the wave that I was on at that time when I was like, what, 16 going on 17, I think. So those were definitely favorites of mine, and have always been, so it's always been like a bucket list thing to come around and do covers of those. And then the Morbid Angel one was an idea that I'm like, okay, well, I figured it'd be cool to do one of those too. And since AngelCorpse had done one of the oldest Morbid Angel songs from the Abominations album, Demon Seed, way back when in like 2000 or whenever we did that, I was like, okay, well, I wanted to do one from I guess what I consider the later era of Morbid Angel with the Vincent lineup. So I picked one from Covenant, Blood on My Hands, which I thought was a favorite from that album. And then the 4th cover song was the Shub Nagurath cover of From the Stars, Nyarl Thotep. And that's a band too, that Mexican band, they didn't have a lot of output, but the output they did have, to anybody that's ever collected it or listened to it, it's like all really really well-written songs, not just some 3 riff songs here, but I mean, really detailed songs, a lot of parts, a lot of really memorable riffs. And, the band has been gone for, I think well over a decade or more now, at least inactive. I mean, the vocalist Arturo had died some years ago too. Um, so I thought it was a great way to do some make people aware of that band. If they like the cover song, then maybe that'll prompt them to go check out that band's discography and, find some great shit while they're at it. So
No, definitely.
that's what summed up, Merciless Upheaval. So it had 4 new songs, for 4 cover songs, and then from there, I continued to develop the other 8 songs that I was writing for what was gonna become the next, projected full length, which brings us to today with the, Malign Apotheosis album.
You mentioned Morbid Angel, and uh, it's probably a tricky question for you actually, but are you a Browning guy, a Vincent guy, or Tucker guy? Which I know it's kind of, obviously you play with Tucker, so it's kind of. But for you, if you had to say like, what was your
Well,
favorite vocalist?
I like all of the stuff. I mean, I like Abominations. There's a rawness to it, and it's part of the formative era of the band. But there's a lot of things too that are maybe lopsided with that too, which might sound blasphemous to say. Some people think it's the most perfect record, but it's not. And there's, reasons internally that lineup never lasted to, go forward to do a future recording, you know, uh, which a lot of this is just all cataloged history that most people know about anyways. But then you get into the Vincent era. You've got like the Altars, Blessed, Covenant. I think that everything was amazingly solid with all of those albums. But things started to slip there too. I mean, Domination's got some good moments, but it's also got some, I don't know, maybe not to me. Things started to get a little bit different. Maybe not in the best ways. And then lo and behold, that lineup fell apart sometime after that too. And then you get into the third, I guess if you want to call it the Mark III era for that band, where Steve Tucker became part of it. That very first album with him, the Formulas Fatal to the Flesh, I'd say that's probably my next favorite, right next to what they put together, say, on Altars of Madness. Because Altars of Madness was kind of like really the first becoming of the band of what they were going to be, at least going forward on those into the 90s, and through that whole Vincent era. I mean, the Abominations of Desolation era and all the demos and such up to that, that was entirely its own universe. Some of the musical motivations that they had going on there were a bit different than what it became when it got to the lineup that did Altars of Madness. But when you got to Formulas, you kind of had them going full bore, all guns blazing, like a young, newer band would probably do. Because I mean, there was a bit of, coming from the departure of a main player from the band, and as big as they were, having a vocalist change at that point in their career was a big deal. So you can hear it in the music that they did on that Formulas album that they were really trying to make something special out of that. And I think they pulled it off in spades. And then thereafter, I think there's great moments that happen on all the subsequent Tucker albums after that. There's that one album that came out in 2011. We won't talk about that one.
Yeah, I had to ask you that last time you were on and forgot. With the new Perdition, who did the artwork on that cover?
That was Nunozuki with Belial Necro Arts. And it was an existing piece that he had, and I don't remember his own title for it. But because I'd already had the title in mind for the album, Malign Apotheosis, which basically translates to Ultimate Becoming of Darkness, if you want to put it in plain English. And what I liked about it is it had like a really Lovecraftian vibe about it, where it's like some sort of spectral shadow, like amorphous sort of figure that was sort of just, casting its, darkness over what already appears to be some sort of dissolute, not quite, you can't quite determine if it's human or if it's even earthly or anything, some sort of, crumbling, decaying sort of city structure or environment. And I'm like, yeah, that's perfect, you know. And I was able to acquire the piece from Belial Necroarts. And one thing I liked about it too is it sort of had the look of it. Have you ever seen that old 20s silent film Faust?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a scene close to the beginning of that where the devil's overlooking the village, and it's framed in a way with the shadow of the devil's wings looming over the city. And if you put the two pictures together, you can kind of see how I saw that, and I liked that comparison, and that's a big part of what sold me on it too, is that it kind of had that kind of icon. Similar, albeit, different, iconic look to it, so that really worked for me.
And you've worked with, like, what, Joe Patango, Chris Moyen, Daniel Desecrator. You guys have worked with Adam Burke. Is there any artists
Adam
that you have that
Yeah,
you've wanted
Adam
to
Burke did the cover of the Tempter's Victorious. Um, Daniel Daniel did the Sacraments, the Sacraments of Dissension album,
well,
and
for
then we had
you
I'm sorry,
oh,
say
go ahead.
again?
I was gonna say, is there any artist that you haven't worked with that you would like to work with one day that's kind of on your list, like maybe a rock or something like that? Is there anybody that you kinda
Rock would be interesting to have something, especially maybe for, like, a T-shirt or something, 'cause it seems like when he does those small, quick sketch designs, those always tended to be some of the favorite ones that I liked from him. Like, back in, 1991, maybe not everybody has ever seen this, but he did the back of the T-shirt for the Australian Morbid Angel tour for Blessed Are the Sick era. And, the back of it is that kinda classic picture of, Australia drawn out with a demonic kangaroo. It it's a cool picture, but it's just a simple little drawing, and, anybody that knows, like, all the sadistic execution art that it existed even prior to the band having music out, um, it's just really cool, apocalyptic looking stuff, so it
you
it
know it's
it
him?
yeah, yeah, I mean, he's got such a, identifiable style, but, I hadn't had something come up yet where I had approached him at least, but, who knows, time will tell.
Tell you that with going back to, going to Angel Corpse when you guys had the was it 2007, the, Lucifer and Lightning album cover. Great cover, man, but that artist, me and you had talked about last episode that you were on, like, we didn't know what happened to the guy, JP Fournier. I don't know
Did
if
you
you
look
heard
him up?
yeah, so he killed his, father and disemboweled his dad.
Yeah, I saw the report of that some years ago. Somehow it popped up on, Facebook. I don't remember who put it up, and it seemed so outrageous that I actually thought somebody was doing, like, a shit post about him or something.
So did I when I first
Yeah,
saw
yeah,
it, yeah.
yeah, so and then, I posted it, I'm like, "Oh, this can't be real, what the hell is this?" And then I start getting messages from other French guys, that know him, some of the other art guys, label guys, and yeah, those guys, confirmed to me that it was real, and that it had actually that the guy I guess the guy had I haven't seen what went from it since, what kind of sentencing that might have went with that, but yeah, I mean, the story is that there was disembowelment,
Shot his
that
dad in the
that
head with
that
an
that he
arrow.
stabbed him in the head with a arrow, and that there was possible cannibalism or something. I mean, it was fucking bonkers.
And you interacted with him, right? When you guys were doing those albums, like, you kinda were going back and forth with him because that went through Osmos, right?
Yeah, it was through Osmo. So, there was a Lucifer and Lightning album that he did. I mean, at that time, a lot of the messages were done, like, through, I think I was
MySpace prob
I think I was chatting to him through MySpace, going back into the internet dark ages. And he also did the one for that first Blasphemic Cruelty album too. Devil's Mayhem.
Devil's, yeah, 2008,
so
right?
He did really good work for us, and if he was still around, he's somebody that I would probably approach again to do it, but that doesn't seem likely at all at this point.
I don't think that's happening. Yeah, and I'm gonna play. So I want to play off the new record, man. Death Insurrection. Anything you could tell us about this track?
That one, I really went for it's out of all the songs on the album, it's probably one of the most straightforward songs. It's just like fast song, kind of, in and out. But I kind of intended it that way. I wanted it to be really urgent, keep things going the whole time, and even when it kind of like breaks down a little bit in the middle section, it still keeps moving. But I wanted it to really have that kind of like urgency, where from start to beginning of the song, it never really lets up at all. Whereas like a lot of the songs on the Malign Apotheosis album have a tendency to drastically go from really wild experimental parts or technical parts into stuff that's like really old school, just kind of chunky riffs. Whereas with Death Insurrection, it's pretty much, it's just bulldozer from start to finish.
Yeah, I'm going to play that now, and we'll come back and obviously talk about the Malefic Throne record and upcoming Hexorcist record next. So this is a Perdition Temple with Death Insurrection. It came out, the album, again on November 28th, Malign Apotheosis, and we'll be back with Gene after this track on the Tampa Morgue.
Temples and falling, dark desolation, me of the fallen decay. Black melons beneath the molten dust, prosperous and undead. Rites of summoning sworn to darkness, evocation of the soul is dead. Some of the last agonize of the altar, doomed to wait and eternal die.
and that was Death Insurrection from Perdition Temple. And one more thing about Perdition Temple I want to mention, the drummer you guys first used on the Antichrist Elect record, I heard is there some health problems he's having? Terry?
Yeah, Terry Eleftherio. It was something to do with his heart, where the type of routines and such, because he was doing this professionally, competing and such in like weightlifting categories and such. So his training schedule to do that, it's the kind of thing that you have to build to. Like if you or I did it, we would kill ourselves to try to do any of this. I mean, the guy was, about 300 pounds, but he's not fat. That's the thing to keep in mind. I mean, here's a guy that's basically doing about a 5,000 calorie per day diet, and they need to do that because, with the routines that they do for their workout, it's the only way that they can burn all that up and convert it into, their build. But I guess what had happened is he developed what is called, I think it's called athlete's heart, to where it gets to where the heart starts racing to the point to where it might blow up. Which I guess is something that could. I mean, I'm probably not entirely accurate in my description of what the issue was, but it was basically it's a heart condition that has come from just the level of exertion and the whole metabolic upheaval that goes with doing that kind of conditioning, and it's a situation where he's had to back off from being able to compete with that. So I mean, again, that was something that he was doing professionally, so that's something that's had to go away. At least at the meantime in his life, possibly indefinitely, that he may not be able to do that. I mean, that would be like, kind of the same thing, like if I was to, like, on one of my hands, if my picking finger, wouldn't work anymore, or one or two of the fingers on my fretboard hand didn't work anymore. It would be a similar effect where suddenly you've got to make some radical uh Tony Iommi level adjustment to
Yeah.
suddenly even be able to play the instrument anymore. And in his case, competing as a weightlifter, that's been disastrously affected by his condition. He posts some updates about it too as time goes by. And he put up a video just the other day, and he was doing some lifting. It's just that he can't do those hundreds and hundreds of pounds of power lifting stuff because that stuff will trigger that heart issue. So I mean, he's still able to be you know a fucking tank. It's just that he's got to do it in a much more controlled, radically much more controlled sense now.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I saw that there were some issues going on, and again, he was the first drummer on the 2010 record.
But on the one thing, and I did ask him about this, is that he says that the type of issue he has no effect on his drumming. So at least as
Nice.
far as that goes, that's something that he's not going to lose at all. So I mean, it's still radically, unfortunate of what's going on with the weightlifting thing. But as far as drumming, he can still run circles around a lot of people around the world.
Nice. And again, so we just did the Perdition Temple, and this is actually, so you're doing these. Obviously, you have 3 records in the works. One's not out yet. The 2 came out on the same date, November 28th, which we're about to talk about. You did Perdition Temple. You finished that up, and a few weeks later, you're doing Malefic Throne, and then eventually, obviously, you're going to you did the Hexorcist record. But that was pretty much like you were just banging those out in order, right?
Yeah,
Nonstop.
about the last well, I guess probably about the last 6 months, all of that was devoted to finishing the record. So I guess if I try to remember the order, I think I might have recorded the Malefic Throne stuff first. And then after that, I, spent about a month, you know, getting warmed up to record the Perdition Temple stuff, because I couldn't really do both at the same time, because it's like I kind of had to keep my headspace in one record at a time. So I wasn't going to try to do everything all at once. So I'd finished the Malefic Throne, and then about a month or so after that, I started tracking the Perdition Temple. And then immediately after I finished that, I spent about another month or so reviewing what I was going to do for the vocals on the Hexorcist album. And then I went right in and did that too. So, I mean, all of those three albums, my work on them was done probably in the space of the last 6 months of this year.
Have you, John, and Steve actually jammed in the same room together yet? Or have you guys pretty much just done the whole, like, I know, first of all, what you mentioned on the last episode, I believe it was, this is a real band. This is not like a side project, right? Malefic Throne. This is 100% a real deal. But have you guys been in the same room together actually jamming yet? Because I know everyone's
No,
in different states.
no, everybody's in a different state, and we've done the whole thing through file sharing. Thankfully in our case, we're all experienced enough and sharp enough with what we're doing, and with the music, and just keeping our head around it to where we can do that. I mean, some people need to be in the jam room with people. I mean, there's benefits that come from that. There's also calamity that comes from that. But in our case, I think we do it works out perfectly. I mean, hell, even for the Perdition Temple band too. Um, Alex doesn't live in the same state, and me and Ronnie are here, but with my work schedule, and with, his, since he tours a lot now with Malevolent Creation and some of his other projects that he's doing too, so even him and I, have not been, together in a rehearsal room for some time. But, when we get ready for shows, we'll get together, at least a handful of times to make sure everybody's on point. But we're all responsible enough the way we approach this stuff that nobody's ever gonna be a fifth wheel, so we're able to make it work.
And on the Conquering Darkness record, you guys worked with Colin Marston.
Yeah, he did the engineering and mixing of it, and the recording of John's drums.
Was the first time working with him for you?
Yeah, I mean, he was unknown to me. I mean, John and Steve knew him from other stuff. I think Colin might have had something to do with maybe with one of the Origin albums, or Gore Guts or something that John was involved with previously they'd done. And I think Colin also did something that Steve had been a part of. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. Maybe the Nader Sadek project, or whatever that was.
Nader
But,
Sadek, yeah.
I don't know all the history there on that, but, yeah, it was our first time working with him, so those guys trusted him, and I'm like, "Okay, let's go with that then." And, I didn't give a lot of direction, at least for the guitars. Originally, for both the Perdition Temple album and the Malefic Throne, the engineers for both of those albums, kind of wanted to do the modern thing, where they want to get this the clean track they want, because they like to do reamping and such, and
Who
or
engineered the Perdition album?
the Perdition Temple album is Jarrett Pritchard, who's done everything since the Sacraments album. Uh, and it wasn't a big issue. It ain't like I was fighting with these guys about this, but I'm just like, I don't want a plug-in tone. I don't want some reamped, already fabricated sound that maybe, other bands have already used. And that's kind of the modern thing, where a lot of bands like to use these plugins because it's really easy to use in a studio to get a mix, because it's already dialed in. All you have to do is just play through it, and it's already got the cookie cutter sound that's ready to go. But what happens is everybody else uses those same plugins. Um, and then every album starts sounding the same. I mean, if you listen to 20 albums in a day, most of the time you're gonna hear things that are nothing about them is any different than one to the next. So I developed my own guitar sound with gear that I have, and I presented it to them, and I'm like, "Well, just do what engineers always did in the past. EQ, you know, set the levels, do whatever, shape it with an EQ, turn the knobs, find that place for it in the mix and make it work." So there may be imperfections in what the ultimate result is, but you know what? That's what made old albums really cool. Like when you went and you bought all the old, Slayer, Destruction, Sodom, etc., etc. You didn't have the same fucking sound on every album. You didn't, it didn't sound like it was just coming off of an assembly line. There were pros and cons to the productions on the albums, but it didn't matter because the energy was there. So the you know the end result was what we created, not what was just came out of a box and you just plug in and make it work. So in spite of modern technology, we tried to do things that we could, to pull things back down to, at least as close to an analog classicism uh, as we could. And I think it worked out in spades. And I didn't give a lot of direction to either Colin or Jarrett for the two respective albums. And the reason I didn't was because I wanted to let their ears kind of affect the mixes of the two. Because the last thing I wanted to have was two albums come out, around the same time. Originally, I didn't expect that they would have the same release date. But that to have two albums come out around the same time that sounded exactly the same. I didn't want that to happen. And when you hear the two albums, you can really hear the contrast in the sounds. I think both of them came out sounding excellent, exactly the way they should, and they both sound like albums that would come from both Colin or Jared.
And I had heard you say with this, with the Malefic Throne record, that one thing that you really enjoyed was being able to kind of experiment a little bit because there was no template totally written, right? You kind of got to try some different ideas that you're not able to try maybe with Perdition Temple or back in the AngelCorpse days.
Yeah, that's the thing with the debut full length album from Malefic Throne. I mean, it's a ground zero of sorts. So there's no legacy established aside from that demo mini album that we did like back in 2022 on Hell's Headbangers. So that aside, this full length is really the ground zero point for setting the foundation of what this band could be. So I played around with some ideas that, maybe would have been relatively alien to have been used within the context of Perdition Temple. Because with Perdition Temple, I usually like to go from like really super old school, not too brainy parts, and then to have that contrasted within some of the same songs to where it gets like either really fucked up dissonant harmonies or crazy harmonized technical parts, etc. And just to have that push and pull that goes with that. That's kind of part of the to me at least the definition of the Perdition Temple material, and and I think it's really come together that way on the Malign Apotheosis. See, even I can barely pronounce it right. Great choice, right? But yeah, so that latest album, Malign Apotheosis, I think really shows where all of that has led to, and in its own way as a foundation for whatever will be the next works that come from that. But now over to Malefic Throne, a lot of ideas that I might have never tried to touch, like different kinds of like technical patterns, things that really things that over the decades that I've done this, there's like certain types of riff structures that I've always kind of shied away from because I felt that they kind of sounded like maybe the kind of riffs you'd have from those, what they would call math metal bands, or those kind of grindy mathematical, that gibberish type of stuff with the burping vocals and all of that, bedrooms all across the world are cranking out 1,000 albums a month worth of. But, so I'm like, well, what would be my version of doing like really staccato technical kind of patterns that to me are still going to be something that in a way you could still hum the patterns, so I worked really hard on coming up with things that, might be, and there's a little bit out of that on that mini album we did in 2022 as well. So I played with that a lot, to try to get out of my, you know, my stubbornness that I had that, riffs need to be like this, or I don't want to do any of that. So I played with that a bit, and I think I got some really great results out of it. And, and it sets the foundation to build on for next records. And plus there's some moments on the Malefic Throne album too, that I think prominently show up in places like like the third song on the album, Athirst for Dissonance.
Play
And
that
then,
actually. Perfect.
and then of course the final song on the album, Forged in Stone, where things come down to like a real crawl, like not necessarily like funeral doom metal slow, but really, really crawling tempos to where it's just more like just grinding, chunking on the guitar to make the sound of the chords and such, which is something that I'd never really done in any of the prior bands, Perdition Temple, AngelCorpse, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm like, okay, well, here's where there's going to be some of that, and I'm going to come up with a foundation of how to have that element be part of this band too, where as radically fast, aggressive, and technical and dissonant that we might go, then there can also be like, how churning and crawling can some of this go too, and still convey the same effect and have the immediately identifiable Malefic Throne sound to it.
I'm actually gonna play, was a song you just mentioned. I'm gonna play "Athirst for Dissonance" from the record right now. This is Malefic Throne. We'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track. and that was Malefic Throne with Athirst for Dissonance. I do want to mention, because I know you did that, then you're doing the Hexorcist. You have a new Hexorcist record coming out. What can you tell us about that? And then the next is the Demonized, right? You're going to step to that after this.
Yeah. So as far as what's what's on the launch pad for going into 2026 for new things, aside from live activity for Perdition Temple or Malefic Throne, I believe it's going to be sometime January, worst case maybe February, that the Hexorcist, which for the band is the sophomore full length, that'll be coming out. And on that, I just do the vocals. And I guess the best way to like really distill that down is it's got the, you might, referring back to the same interview where I was talking about, like, say, Abominations of Desolation, where it's got great moments and it's got great chaos on it, but it's got a little bit of just kind of like out of controlness to it. Not saying that the Hexorcist is like untight or sloppy or anything like that, but it's got the riffs and the way the songs play out. They're like pushing right to that point to where it just sounds like it's about to explode. And also it's just got that immediate attack on every song that to me almost feels like if you crossed, say, the chaos of Abominations of Desolation from Morbid Angel, and you cross that with like the jackhammer evilness of like the Tolkorp Nors album from Impaled Nazarene, the very first one, that's about where this lands in my opinion, in a really great way. So I think that's going to be it's going to be great to see the reactions on that one too. And it was a great time doing that record, because being that I was just doing vocals, I didn't need to really constrain myself to like, well, how can I do a vocal pattern that I can still play the guitar and do the vocals on? I didn't have to think about any of that shit. So all I had to do is think of it as a vocalist for that, and I could just, create, any kind of pattern that I wanted to work over the rhythms. And I think there's some really, really good moments on that. And I think fans of Hexorcist, from the previous stuff, the previous full length and the EPs, and their demo that they had from some years ago now, I think they're going to be really happy with it too. And I'm eager to get that one out.
And then Demonized will be after that. So kind of
Yeah,
the pattern
Demonized,
is,
that will be working on the full length for Osmos, which for that band will be its sophomore full length as well, because the original one came out on Osmos back, what, 22 years ago or something now? Whatever it is, like I think it came out in 2003. So yeah, it'd be about 22 going on 23 years ago now that came out. Okay. Antimo has been working on the material, and I will try to contribute maybe at least a few songs of material for that, or at least parts of songs. And then Antimo and the others will record their parts down in Mexico, and then I'll track my parts here at home like I've done for all these other albums. When that will all be completed, I don't know, because but it's definitely going to be as far as a recording project, that'll be the bigger one going on, at least for the first part of next year, to hopefully see a release for that maybe around the end of the year next year. We'll see what happens. But that's what's on the plate currently for new recordings coming forward into the new year.
and I have just a couple more questions for you, Max. I wanted to talk to you about a few things here. So do you feel 2025, man, you're an old school guy, from all of us in Tampa who know you. Do you feel like in these days it's hard, the danger aspect is missing? It's hard to take it serious. When you're a kid, man, you're listening to Venom, you're listening to Bathory, and it gets more extreme as it goes, and it affects you because you're not like you're not seeing everybody on the internet all the time. We just had Kev Desecrator on from Destroyer 666 last week in Sepulcher, and we were talking about this actually. Like now, it feels like the mystery's gone. Would you agree with that for someone who's been in this scene for so long?
Well, I mean, I guess you're saying the mystique.
Yeah, the mystique, like the
Well, yeah, I mean, bands used to play off the idea that, oh, yeah, we actually live in caverns and we have blood rituals by campfire and all this shit. And I guess maybe young teenagers in the 80s maybe swallowed some of that or, maybe thought it was real and, maybe it helped bands sell a lot of records. But, yeah, flash forward and eventually you find out that none of these people have been arrested and put in prison, you know? Maybe they weren't living in caves and having blood rituals, but the thing is I don't dwell on that because to me it's just subject matter that that grabs me. I mean, mostly, you know, like things that I've always liked to read and try to draw inspiration from are things like a lot of like Ashton Clark Smith or Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, where it's just these, amorphous horrors, and things like that. And, maybe sometimes there's other lyrics that I'll write about that are, maybe a little more grounded in like, dark subject matter that's part of the real world, maybe not sometimes specifically topical, uh, but other times, based off of some historic figures, for the Sacraments of Dissension album, there was uh, the song I had called Devil's Devil's Countess, which was, my Elizabeth Bathory song, you know, whilst at the same time it was a bit of a nod to, classic bands like Bathory and Venom that had used Elizabeth Bathory as a subject matter. So there's a little bit of a wink there to things, but to me that's always been the way that I've liked it is that is to just preserve an aesthetic to this kind of music that was there from the beginning. You know, the same kind of the same kind of images that were evoked from the lyrics and the music from old albums, from Venom or Slayer, or any of that. That's what I want my albums to do. I don't want them to be some sort of modernistic, transcendental, like, is this going to like have you explore some sort of weird new age spirituality shit? That to me is too flowery and it doesn't seem like it would have its place in metal at all. So I don't bother with that. So I mean, I like to stick to the archaic, to where it seems like the subject matter and even maybe even musically, but that musically, that there's cobwebs on it, that it sounds like it's maybe something that's from a different era, that it may even sound dated in a way, but that's how my ears hear the way that this music should be, and that's what's going to be presented, and then it's up to the listener if that's going to be something that's going to be what they like, and if they dislike it, makes no difference. I mean, I've been at it as long as I have, and I don't think anybody's opinions have made any impact at all on how I make record.
Yeah, and I think you're, someone who on the outside, I've seen, obviously you have your pages. I've seen you're pretty much a music guy. It's pretty much music, like, because I always feel like, these days, I don't know what you think, but you see, like, I'm not a political guy at all. Like, you see people like your musicians putting up political posts and stuff. It just sucks, right? That's something I think that shouldn't be blended into it because you never saw that back in the day. I mean, you might have saw Dave Mustaine on MTV talking about Rock the Vote or something like that, but these days, I just notice it's always, the mystery's gone and you're seeing opinions about stuff that you just don't want mixed into your
Well,
metal, so to say.
here's the thing with the making public, whether it's through podcasters or people making social media posts, making some sort of political stance, you'll notice that the common phrases are always like, well, somebody ought to do this, or this needs to change. Something needs to be done about it. You'll always see those common phrases. I personally think that when it comes to that kind of discourse, that shut the fuck up. Because if you're not ready to march on your stance and make real what you're talking about, then you're just talking. You're just that kid that's yelling from the safe side on the other side of the fence, making smart ass remarks to, whoever you think the bad guys are or the bullies, but you're not going to do anything. And if they were on the other side of the fence with you, you wouldn't say a fucking word and you'd get beat up by them. So if people want to make a stance, make the stance. Don't talk about making the stance. That's my take on it. And that's why whatever opinions I might have, I don't make those public. Why?
Just you put your
Because
opinion out there.
I'm not in a position to where ideas that I have about any of that, I'm not in a position to where I could make that a reality. So I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna be the shit talker that's just, doing it from a safe spot, just stir things up, and I think the people that do it are just embarrassing themselves and they're making themselves look like weak children.
Yeah, and I think, as someone who grew up listening to this music and you also who's someone who played this music your whole life, it's very odd to me to see like the censorship thing. We lived in a cancel culture world for years now. You see that. Then you see like whatever the political, canceling comedians or canceling musicians it's just crazy how it works now. And you see both sides supporting that, man. It's like censorship's wrong no matter what. And politics suck, as we all know. And Gene, as you know, man, I could talk to you there's so much stuff to talk to you about, man. And I'm just going to ask you two more things. I'm going to let you get out of here and enjoy your Saturday, because I know you've been busy doing press and shit, man. And when you get some time, dude, I'd love to have you back on here and talk more about.
There's been some, yeah, written and video.
Yeah, so we actually don't do, as you know, we don't do video here, but I know you've been busy as shit. So eventually I'd love to get you back on and talk some more about the Tampa scene and stuff like that, just the whole thing. But you look back, Gene, you look at AngelCorpse, we'll go to that, because that's obviously, if you mention Gene, the first thing that comes to everybody's head is AngelCorpse. Like, would you, as you tour around and you do your thing and make your journey, man, does it amaze you, like, the impression and the influence that you left on people? Because I know you have to hear it all the time, because I know when I said this week that you were coming on, and you've been on the show before, and the last time you were on, it was crazy the amount of people that listened to that show and were happy that you were coming on. Do you ever sit back and say, holy shit, man, like, I really left an impression on these people? Because that AngelCorpse period, man, I mean, I can't tell you, every band we fucking have on here pretty much mentions AngelCorpse, like how you contributed to the scene. How does that feel for you?
Obviously it's flattering to have people say that, and it does feel good. Yes. But the other side of that is that what I like about that, in another way, is that I've made a contribution that others have maybe been able to draw from and make that part of the foundation on whatever level for works of their own. Therefore propagating ideas, that I think are the good directions for this kind of music and aesthetic of all of this. And and if other new or younger musicians have picked up something from that and made it part of theirs, then that's me having contributed, to something that'll go beyond, beyond me even. I mean, I ain't gonna live forever, and eventually when I go away, if there's still people that are grabbing something from it, making it into something strong as well, then that's a little bit of what real immortality can be. So I mean, I take a lot of pride in that. When people make comments like that.
Gene, man, as always, dude, we always we thank you for always coming on the show. We appreciate you and, the time you've given us. And obviously anybody who wants to hear Gene's whole story, if you go back to episode, what was it? I believe 50, Gene was on for like almost 3 hours and you hear pretty much every,
Yeah, I remember that was a really long one.
there's a lot of history there, man. It's an overload of history. So, go check that out. But Gene, I'll see you in Tampa, hopefully in February, man, at the Metal Museum and stuff. And I wish you the best of luck with these records coming out and the records that are out already. And yeah, man, again, when you get some more time, I'd love to have you back on.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks for the support, Tony.
No problem, man. And again, hope to see you out in Europe or in Tampa in February.
All right. Well, have a good day, man.
You too, man. And I'll
Bye-bye.
say goodbye to you in a second and everybody else. This is Hexorcist with Veneration of Irreverence that came out on the split with Mexico's Morbid Messiah that came out on a Blaze Productions out of Mexico. We'll be back on the Tampa Morgue with me and Ed after this track.
Attention from the depths, trying to make it resonance. We're all facing moves, dread of unforbidden truths. Steps to be the crowd, my legs still not parade. Lord, just now kill me. My secret bestowed upon the chasms of the wind. The marker of me sees within the spectrum of the astral. They be forging with idols of subversion. Stop, kill of mirroring, the tides of mortality. Manifesting ours is dying and forgotten. Transcending pain, mockery of grace. Amongst the third you of men, impervious centurion, devourer of fear. Invocation of the elders, ascension from the equinox, blasphemous coronation, sovereign of the dead.
And that was Hexorcist, and I want to thank Gene for hanging out with us on the Morgue tonight for his second appearance and putting out some killer records, man, and I'm sure we'll talk to him again soon. Ed, after this, one more episode till the new year, man, right? It's the train is a-moving.
Yep. Train kept them rolling all night long.
And what are you doing for the holidays, man? You guys just doing it at, at your house, or you guys going to your sister's house, or what's up?
Yeah, pretty much. We go to my sister's. My wife's aunt does Christmas Eve, so we go over there, and then I suffer for a couple hours, and then I get to come home. I wrapped all my gifts this year, like they're all wrapped. Like I usually wait till Christmas Eve, and then I hate my life, and I'm cursing with the table in the middle of the fucking room, screaming at everybody, because by the time I get halfway through, I wish I could kill myself. Not this year. It's all fucking wrapped. Everything is wrapped, except for what's still on the way. The next couple days. But yeah, I got ahead of it. I'm good. I'm ready to just dude, I love Christmas, but when, my parents gone, it's kind of sucks. I mean, it's like the holidays are, especially Thanksgiving for me with my dad, that kind of sucks. It's been 2 years already, so it's like crazy.
That's fucking nuts,
Almost
man.
3 for my mom. So, March will
It
be
just
3
seems
years.
like it really does seem like I don't want to say yesterday, but it seems
Yeah.
like it was like last year at the farthest,
Yeah, and I was
Uh,
thinking because Lee Harrison posted that, he had to put his dog to sleep,
saw that.
Pipsqueak, and, we were just talking about that. That dog was awesome. But I remember when we were in, Chile and, my mom had just died, 3 weeks before? Passed away, and, I'm down there fucking playing shows, and I get a call from my wife that my dog is fucking bleeding from his mouth and his nose, and they don't know what to do, and he was old, and we knew, but, like, they were literally getting dressed to take him to the vet, to get euthanized, and, he fucking had a seizure and died right on the couch. And I was just like, and I'm not there, so my son's gotta take care of all the shit, and I didn't get to say goodbye, and it sucks, dude. I mean, it was like 1, 2, and then like, what, a month later, my sister's cat died. So it's like, boom, boom. It was like a nonstop reaction for us for like fucking 6 months. It was like shit just kept happening, man, and so the holidays are a weird thing for me. Um,
That's why I
Not in a
didn't
bad way,
want
I've
pets,
tried to get
man.
over it. I try to get over it, you know what I mean? Because 'Cause I'm not I understand that this is life and I'm older. Had I lost my parents when I was super young, it would suck, because you didn't have them growing up and you go, "Man, I wonder what it would be." I had to experience my parents for just over 50 years. You know what I mean? So, I'm lucky. Most kids don't get that opportunity or get to not only just one, but my parents lived together. Like, they were together. It wasn't 2 households like a lot of people deal with,
My
stepdads
parents
and
were
moms.
split up in the '80s, it was the whole fucking dysfunction junction going on. I mean,
Yeah, so I was
uh,
lucky, man, to have stability, you know what I mean? And my parents were together and, it just is what it is.
that's why I didn't want, I had a cat for over 20 years named Abigail, as you know, a
Yep,
great cat. I didn't want any more pets, but my wife wanted a cat, so we do have Medusa now, which Medusa's a rescue cat from Ukraine because she was, by the invaders, because that's exactly what they are. She was, her house was bombed, and the family she was living with was killed, and then the shelter was bombed because, that's what they do, the invaders. They kill children, and they
yep.
kill innocent animals and stuff
Piece of
like
dog
that.
shit, bunch of fucking weak
Yeah, a
ass
bunch of
dog shit.
disgusting humanity going on.
And
So
how
we
many
took the
animals imagine how many animals were displaced, so that cat's
Yeah.
very lucky to have a family that will care about it and give a shit.
She lives good
So
here, man. She lives
oh,
good,
yeah, I bet.
you
Like,
know?
trust me, the fucking animals in this house get treated better than I do.
Yeah, Medusa lives good, man. She, she has a good life. My wife loves her. So, I mean, she's a good cat. So, but, we got kids and the holidays are here. This is like I said, we have 2 more episodes until the new year comes in. And, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I got an email. I've been working with this band about coming on, not the band I'm about to play, but this was sent to me from one of the guys from the band. It's a band called Mørkø. Um, and this is actually a rehearsal demo. It's a track, 1 song. And I'm gonna try to pronounce this, so we'll see
Good
if I
luck.
can get close to it. But it's from a 1996 unreleased rehearsal demo from a band called Mørkø. Members also involved in a psychedelic noise band called Disorder of Dead 8. And the name of this song is Ikihonkien katveessa, which again,
Very good.
slight chance that I'm not pronouncing it 100% right,
I thi
but
I think you got close because I heard it pronounced, and I think that was close.
we're gonna play this track from Mørkø. Again, I know they just put out a new record in 2025 also, but I think they put out 2 demos in 2000, full length in 2001, a full length in 2008, a full length in 2013, and a full length in 2018, and now a full length in 2025, also an EP in 2020. But this is Mørkø. We're gonna play it from the 1996 rehearsal demo. And yeah, we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track. And that was Mørkø from the 1996 Rehearsal demo. And Ed, another episode of the Tampa Morgue, 119. Next week will be 120. Next week we have Death Chain from Finland coming on. Then the week after that, we have the German black metal band Pest. We have Atax and Scum coming on. And there's other stuff too that actually we have pretty much confirmed, but we're trying to figure out. We have something Monstrosity related, which we're not going to mention until we get the date figured out, but we're which will kind of be in line with their new record and the debut of one of the new songs off the new record. So yeah, Ed, I mean, like I said, man, we're back next week. So everybody who listens to us, we appreciate it. Ed, where can they find us?
Anywhere there's podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere. I've seen it everywhere and anywhere. We're on YouTube for just audio. The thetampamorgue@gmail.com for correspondence. And of course, check the Instagram because Tony's up on that shit all the time. I fucking could tell you what time of day I see Tampa Morgue related shit. I'm just like, is this dude sleep or what's he fucking doing? So, yep.
And I have to say, too, anybody who reads the transcripts, I don't read the transcripts. So I have seen them on my phone before. We don't type that shit in there. So you got a lot of accents. I saw some of this stuff. If you ever get a chance, I don't know how to turn that shit off. If you read the transcripts, they're insane. It doesn't match up with the interviews at all. But I don't have the time to sit and do a 3-hour transcript correction. You know,
yeah, no. Yeah, I've seen it. And there's a couple times I'm like, what? That's not the word he said.
Yeah.
I just laugh. I laugh at it because I see it all the time with stuff, where, there's a video like I'm a cop arresting somebody. And I'm like, holy cow, if they tried to use that in court, like it would, because that's not what that dude just said. So yeah, it's
crazy, man. It's
Yep.
I did notice that when I was looking at I think I had it on. I was checking out an episode that we had to make sure everything came out correctly volume wise, and I started seeing the transcript. I was like, what the fuck does that say? But
yeah,
we have nothing to do with that.
I think because a lot of times if we have somebody on with an accent, it doesn't understand how to process that accent.
Plus the band names we are not
crap.
everyday words that everybody's using. So
yeah, no. So whatever, man. It is what it is. Who cares?
It is what it is.
It's a comedy special. Get to listen to it and read some comedy. So enjoy it.
So everyone, we appreciate you listening. Have a good holiday. We'll be back next week. However you celebrate, whether you're hanging out by a tree or you're drinking blood out of a skull or you're doing whatever, man, enjoy it. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue before you know it. Ed, have a safe one, man.
You too, brother.
Everybody else, have a good one. Peace.
See ya.
This is King Fally from Deceased, and you just listened to another episode of the Tampa Morgue. Tune in next week and stay fucking dead.